Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for having us today. So my name's Jonah. I'm the Project and Outreach Senior Manager with the HDR UK Federated Analytics program and based out of Nottingham. So today we'll be titled, the presentation's titled Federation for Sustainable Health Data Ecosystem. And part of representing the Federated Analytics program is joined by a few other speakers and presenters in the chat, but I'll introduce the team later in the presentation. So today we're going to run through the Federated Analytics program, sort of what we're trying to do, our key objectives and mission. We'll be demoing the software that one of the software solutions we're working on in Five Safes TES and Five Safes TES. And then at the end, we'll talk about sustainable health data research and how we're working towards delivering this. So, I think having worked in research for a while, and I'm sure not uncommon to the people on this call, is there's a lot of data out there, and the problem we have is it's fragmented, either whether it be in different systems or the format and what it looks like is different. And really, that's made it a bit more difficult with the advent of TREs and trusted research environments, where we have these amazing environments that allow researchers to go in, conduct their research, but it's really difficult for researchers to perform analyses and research across multiple TREs, where there might be local processes, whether it's ethics, governance, training, that require researchers to go through these processes to then be able to access and use this data. And what we're really doing what we're trying to do with Federation is create this wonderful dream, this sort of moonshot where a researcher can still have access and query these results in a secure way, where the analysis is submitted at a central point. So you'll see in this very simple diagram, researcher accesses a central node and they submit their query, and the code is sent to each TRE or site where the analysis is run locally, and only the outputs are transferred back where the researcher can review and monitor and assess them, and include in their research. And yeah, at the heart of the Federated Analytics program, it's really about transforming how researchers securely access and analyze data across multiple locations. And we're finding, I guess, success for us is being able to, unlock more insights from different sensitive data sets, especially without moving them, and really enable that large scale collaboration, across the UK, but I think more broadly across Europe and internationally, we're doing some work there, which we'll talk about later. And I think one of the key things we found is it's very much it's a technological problem for sure, but it's really understanding these non-technological components. So it's a lot about building trust and working with people and adopting standards. There's a lot of different types of people and stakeholders in implementing these types of research data infrastructure, and we're understanding that it's definitely like broad engagement with the public, with researchers, like many of these on the call, definitely software engineers and devs, and especially our colleagues in information governance. And it's to, this approach to research seems quite new and yeah, requires a lot of insight. And it's sort of why the HEUK Federated Analytics program, we're working across a lot of different types of people, with a lot of different people. Just listed some of the logos that I could get together for today, but I'm sure there's many more that I've missed and that aren't represented on here. Cool. So yeah, that's very quick summary of the HER Federated Analytics program. At the end of the presentation, I'll put some more links up to some of our resources and how to get in touch. But yes, moving on to the exciting Five Safes TES demo. So what we're going to do today is do a live demo, which is always scary, but the team and I are quite confident that we'll be able to, yeah, get this off. No hitches, of course, and hopefully I haven't jinxed myself. But really, Five Safes TES is one of the software tools, product solutions, we want to call it, where that we've been working on and trying to promote the acceptance and adoption. And it's based on the GA4GH task execution or TES standard. And it allows remote querying with local disclosure control. So very simply, and this is what we're going to run through and demo today, is that researcher workflow where they'll write a query or script, they'll submit it via that central node. The query is picked up by the TREs and run against the censored data, and then only the results or outputs are returned. For this demo, there's a few key assumptions, and we framed it in terms of the five safes. I'm just going to pick out the two bold ones, is that please assume that all users are in a TRE environment, and that the data that we're running the query on is synthetic and it's not representative of any specific or real population. And I think beyond that, the assumption is everyone's been provided credentials in this setup and that there's all the necessary ethics approvals and relevant agreements are in place for local TRE governance. So I'm alluded at the beginning that I'll be joined by a few other people in the team, and you might see them if you can. I can't see everyone's faces, but you might be able to see three people with very obvious backgrounds. So today we'll have three people part of the demo. We'll have our researcher Tim with the green background. We'll have Doug as output checker one with the purple background, and output checker two with Hazel from with the blue background. So this is a really nice team, a really nice group where we're able to have Tim based out of Uni of Nottingham, Doug, University of Manchester, and Hazel from Swansea University to bring this demo together. And today our demo project will be aptly called Trial or Targeted Response and Activated Leukocytes. And yes, that'll be the query that our researcher will run us through. So, without further ado, um, I'll hand over to our researcher Tim to to show you Five Safes TES. Stop sharing.
Thank you, Jonah. Great stuff. So yeah, I'll share my screen. So hopefully people can see that. So as Jonah mentioned, so in this demo, I'm going to be taking on the role of a researcher. And in my research, I want to submit a query across two distinct populations in two distinct TREs as part of the trial project that Jonah mentioned. So as part of my onboarding and training, I've been provided a link to this website. So this is the researcher's submission homepage. And this is the website where I'll be able to submit my analysis. So first of all, I'm going to sign in. So I'm going to sign in with credentials that the TRE has provided as part of my onboarding. And then this can take several seconds. I've got a high number of people using it today. I'm then taken through to the project's dashboard where I can see the trial project, which I'll select. So then selecting the project, I can review it from this About tab. So I've got a description of the project and the project start and end dates. So selecting the TRE tab, I can see which TREs have been approved to be part of this study. So we can see that we've got Nottingham TRE1, Nottingham TRE2. So these are part of my project. So these TREs, so these are the assumptions that we're making here, of course, as Jonah mentioned, is that these TREs are defined in my project protocol. They're included in my ethics application, and they're part of the governance process that I'm following here. And then selecting the People tab, I can review the other researchers that have been granted access to this project. So I can see there's only Benjamin and myself that have been granted access by the administrator. Then going to the submissions tab, once I've confirmed that everything is set up as expected, I can submit a query. So I'm a researcher who's comfortable using SQL. So I can I select the create submission button, and from the drop down, I can choose TES wizard. So once the TES wizard loads, I can select the simple SQL query. I can now start to fill in this form. So I can give my analysis a name. I can um, add a brief description, and I can select the TREs that I want to send the analysis to. And then I can add an SQL query. So this was one of the other assumptions, is that we know that the TREs we're sending the analysis to are using OMOP. So this is an OMOP query to find the number of people with a leukocyte count in the blood, because that's the project that we're running here, the trial project. Then I can submit my query to the TREs. So this is submitting. Once it's been submitted, I'm taken back to the submissions tab, where I can see that my analysis is now running live. So to see the progress of my submission, I can go into the view, and down here I can look at the event log. So the event log shows the key processes that occur across the TREs. So we can currently see that it's at submission layer processing. So this means that the messages are being queued until they are imported by a TRE. So now, as a researcher, this is as much as I can do. This is as far as I can get now. So I wait for my analysis to be run in the TREs, but I can monitor the progress from this interface. So this is as far as I can get. So I'll now hand back to Jonah.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, thanks, Tim. So, yep, now it's research done all they can do. Now it's the jobs with the TREs to pick up and review the egress and review the request. So we'll hand over to Doug, who's output checker one, who will approve or reject the query that's been submitted.
Okay, so my name is Doug. My primary role here is to act as an output checker, as Jonas just said. I examine research outputs to ensure that they stay strictly within the scope of the approved study, and most importantly, to confirm that there is nothing disclosive in the results before they're released to the researcher. So I'm going to start by signing into the TRE using the secure credentials that I've been provided. So I have those saved here, and I save that. Let me try again. Ah. I will. I do apologize. This did work this morning. Right. Sorry about this. I think maybe what we should do is go to Hazel as the second tester, and I will try and get my login sorted, and will come back to me.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
definitely brave doing it as a live demo, and I'm sure, yeah, we'll get back to you, Doug. But let's, yeah, Hazel, if you're ready. So Hazel's another one of our in this demo, Outpick Checker 2, who will be completing the same has the same functional role as Doug.
How
But
do I stop sharing? There we go. Sorry, yes.
okay. So Hazel, if you want to start sharing and as your role as an output checker, the approve or reject.
Yes, I'm a checker too at the TRE2. So my role is the same as what Doug's would be in TRE1. My role is to check the the research egress that's coming in. So I'll just log in. So here you can see this is the area where I can see all my egresses. And this here you can see there's an unprocessed egresses. So these are the egresses that haven't been looked at, which are ready for me to go in and review. Here you can see there's a submission ID, which is up here. If I click on the submission ID, it will take me to the egress data that Tim's query produced. So here I can decide now whether I want to approve, reject, or undecide. But first of all, I'll have a look at the content of the file. So we have a CSV file. So this, as an output checker, this is a normal part of my role. It's not a sort of a new sort of role at the Federation. We would do this normally in a TRE. So we would look at the outputs, check that the output was relevant to the application that they've put in, and also check that there's nothing disclosive in there. So for the purpose of this demo, I've decided that it's not in scope. It's not relevant to the original application that they put in. So I am going to reject the egress. So here I just click rejected and click complete and close. So you can now see that it's been fully rejected. This means now that the output that has been comes from my TRE, Tim will not be able to get the outputs from this then. Back to Jonah, do you wanna?
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Hazel. So yeah, that's Hazel roles rejected. So now Doug, there's still the results to review with you. So I'll
Yes.
hand over to you, and maybe Tim's research question will have better luck this time.
Yeah, let me just check before. Okay, fantastic. Right. So I will reshare my screen. Thean has saved the day. Okay. So after a small hiccup on my login account, we're now into the TRE. So I signed in with the secure credentials, which I have just been provided for the TRE. Once I'm in here, I land on the data egress dashboard. This gives me a clear view of the queue. Here I can see any unprocessed requests. So in this case, there's just this one. And these are the files that researchers have requested to export, waiting for review. So I will select review as has been shown earlier, and we get this view where we have the details. So this specific request, you'll note that the status is undecided, so we still need to give a decision, and it will remain there until we do. So I'm going to download that file to look at it, and that will give me this result here. Now I can check for types of disclosure risk. So if the outputs are appropriate to be shared, I can approve in line with the application. So this is part of a convention role for an output checker. It's not any new process or activity. So we would be looking for disclosive risks such as threshold, small cell counts, so grouping of few people which might to be suppressed to avoid identification, or if you've got unanimity, so if we've got 0% or 100% of the results, that could reveal sensitive attributes about the group of people. And then we would also want to look at inference. So this would be secondary disclosure. So within the project, could these results be combined with the data outputs, etc., to reveal identity? In this case, I don't believe that any of those apply. So I'm satisfied that the data is non-disclosive and safe. So I can return to the dashboard, select approved, and click on complete and close request. That data will now be released for the researcher, and so my task here is complete. So I'll hand back to Jonah.
Awesome. Yep. So as we've seen, the outputs from both TREs that Tim submitted to have reviewed and either approved or rejected the egress. So now we'll hand back to Tim to review what he's gotten back and what he goes through and how he can check his results.
Thank you very much, Jonah. So yeah, you're back with me, the researcher, and we're back here at the researcher's submission homepage. So while this has been going on, I've been able to keep track of the progress of the analysis from the interface, and we can see now that both TREs have processed the requests. So importantly, I've only received results from one of the TREs. So TRE1, that was Doug's TRE that approved the egress. And then I haven't received results from TRE2. It was Hazel's TRE because they decided not to release the results. So for the results that I have from TRE1, I make a note of the submission ID. I can then go through to the to have a look at the outputs, have a look at the output bucket. So to view the to view the outputs, I'm redirected to Minio. So this is a object storage digital warehouse where I can go ahead and retrieve my outputs associated with the submission ID. This is it, 738. So I can see that I've got a CSV file here waiting for me. I can download that and then open it up. This is the right file. Yeah, and so there we can see that I've got the same results that Doug was reviewing and approved at his TRE. So from the researcher's perspective, yep, I now have my outputs which have been approved. Okay, so I'll hand back over to Jonah.
Awesome. Thanks all. And minor hiccup, but I think yeah, it all went off. And so this is just reiterating. This is our this is the Five Safes TES demo from the researcher journey. There's a lot in the background in terms of setting up and deploying this, but this is sort of separate to what we wanted to show today. And this is yeah really focused on if we want to move towards these federated approach to these models. There's this like new way of working, I suppose, that we need to look at and invest into around like education for researchers, but also this in the deployment of these software. So I'm just going to go back to my slides. Cool. Cool. And that looks education. Cool. So sustainable health data research. So yeah, sort of alluded to, I was getting to some of these key challenges in federation. It's, there's different systems, there's different data, there's, it's all in different formats. I think that's a problem for research in general. But in terms of specific to Federation and sort of the world the HDR UK Federated Analytics program works, and it's a lot around information governance challenges. So it's like what data moves, how do these output checkers, like what processes, what risk frameworks do they have to, adjust to or work within? A lot of it is technology. There's lots of solutions. There's lots of TRE platforms, providers. But what we see is there's limited interoperability and use of standards, where at the moment being able to communicate across these platforms is hard, and it's something that through Five Safes TES we're looking to, close the gap on that challenge. But it's also definitely around user education. So the demo we went through is definitely for researchers, but it's also, that process is not what traditional research looks like. So it's understanding that, being real, I guess, with the limitations, and understanding that we have to take people on this journey of adopting and accepting these new federated approaches, to be able to open up these swathes of data that are traditionally siloed or separate. And across the HDR UK program, especially, and the work we're doing with Five Safes TES is, we're working across a broad spectrum. So in terms of the feasibility of this solution, we've worked with a few different industry providers. So we've got here Aferis, Medical Data Works, Bitfound, BC Platforms, and Iridia, who are working and looking at how they could adopt Five Safes TES, and are they compliant with the TES standards. And in this way, in we're seeing, could they submit a job through our, central node that queries their results, and vice versa. Along the spectrum in terms of deployment, through our work on the EASC and Trust project, we've been able to deploy Five Safes TES with the Barcelona team. And then some of the work that the program's heavily involved in is an exemplar, where we're partnering with a few Singapore organizations in the Agency for Science, Technology and Research, ASTAR, the Ministry of Health for Healthcare Transformation, MOHT, working with their Trust platform, and GovTech from Singapore. And really what we're trying to do here, well, what we're achieving here is deploying the Five Safes TES instance in a different TRE platform, and working with local teams to OMOP their data, so bringing it up to that common data model, and having a query submitted through the submission layer, through that central node, and querying the different databases. And then operationally and more advanced is the Five Safes TES solution is deployed at the DPUK, Dementia Platforms UK, and the Alzheimer's Disease Data Initiative, where they've been able to run some use cases or some queries using this solution already. And so, like, ongoing activities of the program is really focused on, is that interoperability. We think being able to connect different platforms is as important as bringing together different types of data. And it's really through that adoption of that GA4GH TES standard. And what we're seeing as well is it's around building trust and acceptance. We have these solutions, these technological solutions, but it's understanding what's useful and acceptable, and really building that trust amongst people around these federated models, and understanding what each other care about, where we talk about this, or how does this, how does create that value for different groups. And then finally, and linked to the previous 2 points, is around the translation implementation of this tooling. So it's supporting Five Safes TES for sure, and how that solution's adopted, but it's also some of our other tools in Carrot, Bunny, and Lettuce. And we haven't mentioned those today, but I'll put some links to these products in the chat, so you can have a look at your own leisure. But of course, if there's any questions that we might not get to today, please reach out to me. I've got my email at the bottom, and I'll post that in the chat after. Cool. So yeah, thanks for giving us the time. That's the end of my formal slides. I can't see any questions in chat, but yeah, appreciate the time and hopefully begin to understand what we're doing as part of the HDR Federated Analytics program. And yeah, open to any questions or thoughts.